Hey guys, welcome back to Science. Ms. Higgins here. In our last lesson, I had asked you to read the book Warning Tsunami and compare and contrast tsunami waves to the other types of waves that we've studied. So the rope waves, the slinky waves, and the sound waves. So before we move on to today's lesson, we're going to do a quick review of what we learned in that book. So here's a diagram of the tsunami, and we see that the waves are moving up and down. So the wave pattern is up and down. That's similar to the wave pattern of the rope. The rope also moved up and down. That would be different than the slinky and different than the sound wave. Both of those waves moved back and forth, not up and down. We also learned in this book that the source of the tsunami is actually an underwater earthquake. That's what causes all of the energy, and then that energy is transferred into the water. Source, underwater earthquake. And we also learned that the water hardly moves in a tsunami. It's actually the energy of a tsunami wave that travels, not the water. So what's moving? The energy. Now, we see that the wave pattern is up and down, so we can say that the tsunami wave is most similar, the tsunami wave is most similar to a rope wave because they both move up and down. So we learned two important things here. Sound energy travels as a wave, and the thing that it travels through moves only a little bit. It's actually the energy that's moving. And we also learned that a wave is a pattern of motion that travels away from the source. So just like the other wave patterns we studied, we see that the source is the earthquake and the wave moves away from the source. So in today's lesson, we're going to be writing a scientific explanation by using academic vocabulary and explaining why or how something happens. Your job will be to read slide 5 and slide 8 of the book Patterns of Communication, and you're going to answer our question for chapter 1. How does a mother dolphin communicate with her calf across a distance? And you'll need to use these academic vocabulary words: source, listener, wave, communicate, and wave pattern. So I want to model for you how we could write a scientific explanation, but I don't want to give you the answers. So I'm going to write about the different types of waves that we've talked about: the rope, the slinky, and the tsunami. And I'm going to save all the work about the sound waves for you guys in your independent work. So I want to think about rope waves first. And remember, I want to use this academic vocabulary: wave, communicate, and wave pattern. So in the rope wave, the wave pattern of a rope is up and down. The wave, we'll say the energy, comes from the source and then travels away from the source through the rope. So the energy is transferred from the source, which is usually someone's hand moving the rope, from the source to the rope. It's actually the energy that is moving through the rope, and the rope hardly moves. Okay. Let's make this a little smaller. Okay, so I can't use the word listener because it's not a sound wave. So I can't use communicate either. But I did use source, I used wave, and I used wave pattern. So I explained why or how something happens. I explained why the rope moves up and down, and I used that academic vocabulary. Let me show you another one with slinky waves. Let's move these down. Okay. So the wave pattern of a slinky is back and forth. The energy comes from the source, which is usually someone's hand, and then travels away from the source through the slinky. The energy is transferred from the source to the slinky, and it's actually the kinetic or motion energy that's traveling. The slinky hardly moves. Okay, so this is another scientific explanation. I explained how or why something happens, why the slinky moves, and I used academic vocabulary. I said wave pattern, I said source, and I said wave. Okay, let me show you one final one with tsunami waves. So I'm going to say here, the wave pattern of a tsunami is up and down, very similar to the rope. The energy comes from the source, which is an underwater earthquake. The source transfers energy from under the earth to the water. But remember, we learned that each particle of water doesn't move very much. It's actually the energy that is moving. Okay, good. So we wrote another another scientific explanation explaining why or how something happens, and we used academic vocabulary. So you've seen 3 examples. This should be no problem for you. You're going to write this scientific explanation about sound waves. Now you'll have to include the word listener and communicate. So I just want to remind you what that means real quick. When a mother dolphin is communicating, what is the source of the sound? Where does the sound come from? We know that that would be the mother dolphin is making the sound. It travels away. So then who do you think the listener would be? If the mom is communicating, the mom is sending a message, the listener would be the calf. Remember, that means baby dolphin. Okay? So in your explanation, you're going to first read slides 5 and 8 of Patterns of Communication. And in your explanation, you'll need to use the words source, listener, wave, communicate, and wave pattern to answer our Chapter 1 question. Remember to click Turn In when you're finished. Good luck and happy working.